Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to talk to you today about Blitz.js and the future of full stack web development. But first, let's talk about where we are today. We live in an amazing time to be a JavaScript developer. React was released only 7 years ago, and it's pretty crazy to think about what all has been built on top of React and what applications have been built with React. So, the other thing is the tools like Create React App and Next.js were released already 4 years ago. And now we have even so many more amazing packages, libraries, frameworks that allow us to build great applications. We have amazing technologies like TypeScript, GraphQL, so many great CSS and JS libraries, Form libraries, and the list goes on and on, right? We have services like Vercel and Netlify that make it so easy to deploy full stack applications. And so this is such a great time. And it seems like with all these things, it should be very easy to build a full stack React application from scratch. However, when you sit down to actually do that, it's not very easy. So the first thing you have to decide is what framework are you going to use, right? So uh, will you use Create React App or Gatsby or Next.js? And how do you know? Like this is a big decision and you don't want to mess it up, right? So that's just the first thing. And then once you figure that out, then there's like 100 other decisions that you have to make after that about file structure and code formatting and all these things. And you have so many tools to configure, like your testing setup, ESLint, Husky hooks, probably prettier. Um, and it just goes on and on. There's so much work. There's too much work before we can even focus on building the code for our application. So I like to think about what would this look like if it was easy. And what I think this would look like is that there would be one de facto framework for building full stack React applications. Maybe two, but ideally one. Other communities like Ruby on Rails and Laravel are thriving on a full stack framework, right? They're so productive, and we don't have this for JavaScript and React. And many of us have been feeling the need for this, for quite some time. And so this is why I set out to build Blitz.js about 2.5 months ago. And people are so excited about it. We've already had over 50 people from around the world that are contributing to Blitz itself. And there's a lot of buzz around it. So I'm so excited to talk to you about it today. So what is Blitz? Blitz is a framework for building full stack React applications. So it covers everything from end to end. It starts with your database all the way to your front end and everything in between. And Blitz is built on top of Next.js, which is a really amazing React framework. And so everything that Next provides, like data hooks, routing based on your file system, really great performance, static page generation, all of this comes out of the box with Blitz. Blitz doesn't restrict any of that from you, but Blitz adds a lot of things on top of Next that is out of the scope of Next, but it's things that we need to build a full stack application and things to make it easy to build a full stack. So what does it look like to um, start a new Blitz application? So the first thing is npm install -g blitz. And you install the global CLI, which has many, many useful commands. So the first thing is blitz new my app. And this is going to generate a new application for us. You can see there's quite a few files here, and that's because it already has everything you need already configured for you and set up and working together. So this includes ESLint, Prettier, Husky Git hooks. The Git repository is initialized. We don't have yet, but it's coming, a testing infrastructure already set up. And so you have this really nice starting point for building a full stack application. Um, so let's go into this app and run blitz start. And we'll let this boot up. So we've worked really hard to make the logging as beautiful as we can. You probably saw here with as we created this. So let's open this up. Okay, so we have this nice starting page. Um, and this is full stack, so it starts with your database. And so we'll follow the instructions here. So let's go open our database schema file. So Blitz comes by default with Prisma 2, which is not related to GraphQL at all. Prisma 2 is a database client. And so it gives us the schema file, and we're going to define a project model. And it has an ID attribute and a name attribute. And so this is going to create a database with this table and columns. So now we run blitz db migrate and hit yes. And now we have a database already migrated, initialized, ready to use for us. And that was so easy, right? So the first thing I like to do is I want to look at my database and I want to add some data to it before I even start writing code. So how you would do this today is you would have to go Google and try to find some application that allows you to view the database, like a graphical user interface for your database, right? Um, like, and it's probably going to be clunky, hard to use, ugly, um, and it's just a pain, really. So, what would this look like if it was easy? And the answer is that it would be one command to start a database viewer. So, something like Blitz DB Studio. And this is going to start up this really nice database viewer. And this is provided by Prisma 2. And it's so awesome. It's built right into Blitz. So you can see we have a project table and the ID column and a name. So let's add a record here. So React Europe, and we will create that. And there, we already have a row in our database. You know, it's so easy. And this gives you, like, you can filter, search, and all that type of things. So let's go back. So now we need to write some code to access the database, right? So how you would do this today is you write everything by hand. Um, and so you have to figure out your own like architecture. How are you going to access the database? Your files, your file structure, and there's a lot of decisions and things you have to figure out on your own because there's no standard way to do it. So again, what would this look like if it was easy? One command. So in a Blitz app, you can run blitz generate all. It's going to generate all the possible files. And we'll give it the model name. And this will generate a number of files here. And it's all ready to go for you. So there's pages, queries, and mutations. We'll look at a query here. So get project query. So this is the code that is going to run on the server. Okay, so remember, this is a full stack application. So you can see we're importing the database, and then we're exporting a plain JavaScript asynchronous function called getProject, and it calls the database as database.project.find1. It gets a project and it returns it. And this is, eventually you'll add other things in here like authorization, maybe like event triggers or something. But to get started, like this is all it takes. So this is good. But now we need to get this database or this data to the front end, right? So how would we do this today? We could use REST or GraphQL, probably one of those. So if we were going to use GraphQL here inside of Next for a full stack application, we would have to install Apollo server. configure that, set it up to run with the serverless function, we would have to write our server schema, the data schema of the GraphQL API, and then we already have a resolver here that we could use, resolver. Um, and then we need to install Apollo Client on the front end and configure that and set that up. And then we need to write the query. And then finally, after all of that, it will have it working, but we're also using TypeScript and we need types. So we'd also have to set up GraphQL code generator, which is a whole another thing. And then it's another thing to run in the terminal all the time because it's constantly recompiling your types anytime something changes. And frankly, that's too hard. So again, what would this look like if it was easy? Well, the easiest thing that I could think of was to import this server function directly into your front end and just use it like a normal function, right? Like that is so simple. So let's go to our project page where we're going to display a project. So this is normal. This is a React page, a Next.js page. We have React components in here. So notice up here at the top that we are importing get project from directly from that file that we were just in. This is just a straight function import. This is not generating a generated file. Um, so inside our component here, we're getting, using the router. We have the hook, the use router hook, and we get the ID of the route. And then we call this use query hook that's provided by Blitz, and it's actually built on a React query. So we pass in that query function. So remember, this is the server code we've imported here, and we pass it into the use query. And then the arguments, which is to get the project where the ID is equal to the ID of this route. So this looks like it shouldn't work, right? Like we should get a compile error or something. But let's try it and see what happens. So we're gonna run blitz start. And let this load. Okay, now we're going to go to /projects. And wow, we have a working app. So let's reload, and you can see that it's loading this data on the client side. So this is pretty awesome. It's so easy. So what's actually happening here? So at compile time, we take this direct function import and we swap it out with an HTTP API. And we call that API for you automatically from the front end. And so as a developer, you don't have to think about an API, REST or GraphQL, nothing. All you think about is your server code and your front end code, and you just use it. And then like the data, we take care of getting the data where it needs to go for you. And so I want to reiterate that this is not server-side rendered. This is client rendered. You can see the loading screen showing up there. Now you could server render this using get server-side props, or you could generate it statically with get static props. So you can do any of these on a per page basis. It's up to you to decide which page it does which, whether it's SSR, a client rendered, or static. So um, this is the biggest feature of Next.js. And then queries work the same way. So let's go look at this delete project mutation. Again, this is a very simple function that's going to run on the server. And it does database delete, same thing. And then we import it in the component. And then down here for mutations, there is no use query hook. And so this is just calling that, it appears to be calling that server function directly from the front end. But again, we swap it out at compile time with an actual HTTP API. So there's multiple things that are great about this. Um, but one thing, especially for TypeScript users, is that your types work statically. So you don't need GraphQL code generator or any other kind of runtime process to like generate the types for you, because the types are already there, defined statically, and so it's so nice. Um, so well, we have this running, but uh, doesn't look great, right? And let me show you. So we actually generate all the pages for you, so you can like create a new item. Um, you could edit it, delete it, go back, and now there's two items there. So let's say I want to install Tailwind. So how this would look today is you would go to next.js, the repository, and you have to find that example. So find file, Tailwind, um, and wow, there's a bunch of Tailwinds. With Tailwind CSS, okay, so you're going to find this example. These examples are really great, by the way. Um, but the challenge is that you have to go in and find which files are unique, and then you have to go in and copy and paste this over to your project and back and forth and make sure you don't miss anything and get it right. So what we are doing with a Blitz app is we're going to make that, again, as easy as possible, one command. So Blitz install Tailwind. So um, this is not working. Uh-oh. Um, okay. So this is going to be one command, but wasn't, or it was going to be just Tailwind, but it's not production ready yet. So this is a demo. So we're going to one command here, and it's going to install the dependencies that you need. We need to fix the contrast here, but it's installing Tailwind CSS, the post CSS plugins that you need, and then it's going to create a couple files for us. You're just going to create the index.css, button CSS, a couple files to get you started, and then it's going to add the import into your document page, and that's it. You're ready to go. So we can run blitz start, and let's go to pages or project index, where we have that list, and let's add class name. Um, let's do like background blue, um, 500, and uh-oh, we have an issue. Uh-oh, not good. Um, you meant, looks like the implementation for this changed. Ah, yes. So the bug will get fixed. There will be one command. Um, so let's go back to our projects. Yeah, so you can see I have the Tailwind CSS class here, and you can see it is applied. So we're so excited about this. And what's really exciting is that we're talking to the Gatsby team to reuse their Gatsby Recipes package. So they have a really nice UI, and they're using MDX to define the recipes. And we're talking about how we can reuse that and extract it out into a shared package. so that you can write Gatsby recipes in the same way that you would write Blitz recipes. So we're really excited about this. And you can imagine having like thousands of these recipes, right, to install anything you can imagine. And you could compose different recipes together to have like your own custom starter kit. Um, and you can install things like style components, emotion, anything like all these different tools and stuff that it can just be one command to install it and configure it. So we're really excited about this. Okay, so one other thing I want to show you here is how often have you tried to, like, let's say you're having some code that's it's not working right. You need the it's um it's some code that you want to run like without having to run it in your project and compile it and test it in the browser. Like you want to be much more quick, right? And that's what the node REPL is for. So like if you do in the console run node, and then you can do like 1+1, right? It's just a node REPL. But how many of you have tried to import like run your project code in here? It's really difficult, right? Like it'll um, complain about yes, modules not working, import, export, and all this stuff, and like it's almost impossible. It's so hard, but we're making this so easy with Blitz because we know like what your project is mostly structured like, and so this is going to be as easy as one command, Blitz console, and this loads all the commands. And all the code, excuse me, all the code, all your project code automatically. So like your queries, your mutations, your database. So we can do db.project.find mini, and we can log that out. And there you can see that the you're getting the data directly from the database, right? This is so easy and so nice to play around and test the output of things, the input. So you also have your queries. So let's do get projects and console.log. And it's the same thing because that query is returning, the database. But then you can also do mutations. So let's do delete project and see if I can remember this. The input, I think it's where ID equals 2, then .console.log. Okay, so I just deleted it. Now we have history, right? So um, you can go back in your history and let's get the projects in there. It's only one, right? This is so nice. So currently, top level await does not work. You have to use .then, but we're working on making that work. It works, but it breaks. It works on Mac OS, but it breaks on Linux and Windows. And so there's an open issue for this if anyone wants to help us. So let's close this. Where do we go from here? Well, we just released the very first alpha version 2 weeks ago. And I'm sorry, excuse me, 3 weeks ago. So it's still very early, and we have so much left to build and so much polish and things, but it is usable today. So you can go install Blitz, you can create a new application, and it does actually work. So there's probably some bugs. There are bugs, I know. There's rough edges. It's not polished. So what you see today is not our end vision, um, but it's a good starting point. So the future we are building is one where Blitz does all of the mundane and menial tasks for you, like all the project setup, right, and configuring build tools and all that stuff. And so Blitz does all this for you as much as possible. And then that frees you up to focus uh, on the code that makes your application unique, right? Like the code that this is the code we all enjoy writing and the problems that we enjoy thinking about solving. Like we don't enjoy thinking about solving a Webpack problem, right? Or a build tool problem, at least most of us. Um, we enjoy solving problems for the application that we're building, and we're like solving problems for the end users of our application. So um, we're going to have a huge ecosystem of the installer recipes, like I showed you. And then not only that, we'll have a huge ecosystem of plugins. So the first plugin will be Prisma 2, right? So Prisma 2 comes by default with Blitz, currently is tightly integrated, but Prisma will be moved to a plugin. And then we can swap Prisma with any other plugins, like a plugin for FaunaDB or a plugin for any other database solution. And then we'll have plugins for all other sorts of things. Plugins can hook into various parts of the lifecycle of your application. It can hook into the CLI. It can add templates, so you can create your own like Blitz generate component and customize that to be exactly what you want for your project. So some other major features that we have coming um, don't exist today. The biggest one is authentication, right? Everybody loves to build authentication. No? Okay. Yeah, me neither. So we're working on this, and we have an RFC open on our GitHub repo for session management. And this session management is set up to work with any identity provider, right? So you can plug in Auth0, or you can have your own username and password, etc. So we're working on that already. Probably be a few weeks until that's ready to go. We're going to be adding authentication, authorization. So these are authorization rules that you can use on the server and on the client. So the same thing, but you can reuse that logic. We'll be adding model input validation. So the same thing, you can validate the input on your server and in your React forms. Um, we're going to be adding custom templates so you can eject uh, the templates and customize them to be exactly what you need for your project, right? Because the default templates don't know what you're trying to build. We're going to be adding a really nice testing infrastructure to new apps, and then you can add that to your generators too. So when you generate a query, it automatically generates the test for that query. We're adding a graphical user interface, and that's already being worked on. And so this allows you to do everything that you can with the CLI, but using a graphical user interface like an application. Um, and we're also adding support for React Native. So this is something that I'm really excited about personally. And the dream is that you can have one Blitz application as your backend, and then you can have multiple front ends, right? But additionally, that you can have the no API experience with your React Native app, so that the goal is that we can import that server function directly into a component in your React app, and then have that work swapped out for an API at build time. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to we can make that happen. And so that's one thing we're going to be working on. Additionally, I want to add offline support and make that very easy, because so many applications are needing some type of offline support these days. And this is a problem that the framework should solve, should do the hard work so that it can be easy for you, the end developers. So we need you to help us make this a reality. There's so much work left to do, and we are always accepting new contributors, and there's a lot of work to do. We have a really fun community working together on this. We have a weekly contributor call that anyone can join, and you can watch the recordings too. Um, so if you're interested in helping, definitely get in touch. So I want to leave you with this. Don't settle for hard to use. Push for easy. Don't settle for complicated. Push for simple. Don't settle for ugly. Push for beautiful. You know, our tools should make us smile. They should be fun to use. They should make us productive. So I invite you to join us. Give Blitz a try. Join our Slack community and help contribute to Blitz itself. Let's make Blitz the best framework that has ever existed. Thank you.